Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Tuesday night, my time anyway, the time that we're recording this, but we're not racing tonight. We're doing something a little bit different. We've got a podcast of sorts, the first ever, I think, in ROOZ history. Two very esteemed guests with me tonight. I've got both Vic Chan and A River Runs. But A River's known by a different name now. I'll leave him to explain that in a moment. But, fellas, how are you going tonight?
Hey Nick, thanks for having us. Hey
Hi,
River.
Nick. Cheers. Yeah. Hey, Vic.
A pleasure.
Right.
Pleasure to have you both on board. So, River, I'll refer to you as Jamie, if that's all right, throughout the interview. Do you want to explain why you want me to do that?
Yeah, so 10 years or so ago when I was thinking of PSN names to pick, I obviously wasn't thinking of a name that, would adorn YouTube broadcasts of my racing and, being in commentary with ads as well. Everyone knows my name's Jamie anyway, so may as well just make it my name and then people can call me that. It's just easier. And yeah.
Beautiful. All right, so that will explain why we're referring to you as Jamie. Pretty good reason as well. I probably need to get around to that myself too. All right, cool. Let's do a quick little debrief of the season. So, Vic, obviously a phenomenal season from you and River not far behind. Just sort of breaking it down, Vic, you had 5 wins. There was 9 podiums in there, 3 poles.
Yep.
Jamie, you had 2 wins, 6 podiums and 3 poles as well. Vic, do you want to give us a quick sort of breakdown of your season and then I'll get yours as well, Jamie?
Yeah, sure. Well, my season was great, I guess. What most people think, but to me, I was still wasn't as easy as people think it is because, River's always going to make it tough, and there's always those nerves there. So yeah, the first few rounds was good until I tore my bicep and then just struggled to stay on the pace until the last couple rounds, I'd say.
Well, I think you did a pretty decent job of keeping on the pace, considering you you had the bicep injury as well. I've just got a little screen up here. You obviously can't see it at the moment, but just sort of outlining each of the 9 rounds and how you both went. But you started off the season phenomenally. You took home the first 3 rounds. Silverstone, we were at Donington, and then Barcelona. You took race 1 of the sprint round at Snetterton, and then it was you didn't finish any lower than 3rd after that. When I can't remember, when did you do the injury?
Just before the Nürburgring round, like a couple of weeks before. Lucky we had a break as well.
Yeah, that was round 5. So after the sprint round.
Yeah, so after the sprint round just before the mid-season break.
Yeah, beautiful. So you, didn't drop a beat. It was 3rd, 2nd, 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 1st. So finished the season.
Yeah, I was lucky.
Yeah, nah. I think most people listening to this or watching this would probably disagree and say it was more to do with skill than luck. So, but it's a great season from you. What about you, Jamie? What's your recap of the season?
Yeah, a little bit the opposite. I probably started off not that great, not that consistent. Sounds a bit ridiculous when you've been on the podium for the first 3 races. But, just little things here and there, a couple of little mistakes, a couple of bad strategy calls, and so it wasn't until kind of later on in the season that I really started to hit those marks, consistency and driving wise, and but ultimately it's just those little margins that came up. That spin that I had in Silverstone, which dropped me a place, bad strategy call in Donington, pretty poor race in Laguna Seca as well. Times where I could have maximized a few more points, and it just all adds up. So, but the end of the season, even though both Slambo and I were taking wins, that was great for the team and for the team's championship. And whilst we don't quite know who the winner of that is yet, to be in that battle again for a consecutive year. Is still super important and still great to be a part of. So, even though Slambo was winning a couple of the races, that was just as exciting and worth celebrating for me than if I had have won them.
Yeah. So really putting the team first over personal finishes, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you did have a really consistent season, considering that you are racing against Vic, who is on that sort of that next level. You managed to keep up with him really well. It was just more Snetterton was more the big turning point. You finished 7th in the first race and 17th in the second race. I think you had a bit of a tangle there in one of the races as well. Do you see that as being the turning point of the season for you?
It obviously was a big hit in terms of the points.
Yeah.
Race 1, turn 1, lap 1 wasn't great because I got hit off there at turn 1, but and I kind of came back. But race 2, I got caught up in another incident, and then I made my own error as well and took myself off into the fence. So, if those little things don't happen, that's 1 or 2 places, which is another 1 or 2 points.
Yeah.
So, I can't just place it all on, that one incident at turn 1. It was, like I said, bits and pieces all throughout the season that I just could have nailed a bit better. Yeah.
Well, I think, obviously, from each of your own perspective, you have just sort of different views of the season. But I think, definitely from my perspective, I'm not going to speak on the behalf of everyone. You both put together phenomenal seasons. You both really the cream of the crop most of the season as well. So, phenomenal effort.
Thanks,
from both of you guys. It was a pleasure to commentate on, to be honest. It was some great racing, and obviously the epic at Imola in the last round was that's probably one of my highlights in terms of the season, most definitely, even commentating as well. I think that race will be referred to for a long time to come. So, congratulations on both of you for the phenomenal season.
Thanks, man.
All right, cool. Let's get into the first question. So we didn't really explain the format, just a quick brief overview of what the season was. But now this is really to sort of get to know, Jamie and Vic, and a little bit more insight into, not just the racing side of it, but, what goes into it and behind the scenes a little bit, into the sort of the physical side, the psychological side. So we'll cover a few topics tonight, and I think it'll be very interesting. I think a lot of people will want to know some of these insights as well. So we'll start off with the first one. Whoever wants to go first can chip in. But how did each of you come across ROOZ, and how long have you been with the league so far?
You want me to go first, Riddler? Or you want me to go first? I'll go first.
Go on.
I guess it's COVID, eh? I joined maybe April, March 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Around when COVID was just before its peak.
Yeah.
And they started locking everything down. So, I raced 2 seasons with Gran Turismo Sport.
Ah, yeah.
And then I played ACC when it first came out, but I couldn't connect with the force feedback because it was a bit broken.
Ah, yep.
So I waited for the second season, and then when that kicked off, I joined up.
Nice.
So... it's only been a little over a year since I've been with ROOZ.
I was going to say, not very long at all. So I think that's probably, I might have even joined. No, I joined this year. Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. What about you, Jamie?
Pretty much the same story. March or April last year when COVID hit, I joined up, started racing in the Project Cars 2 league. So that's the one that Stu manages and runs. I'd come across ROOZ a couple of times in the previous years and kind of considered joining up. Perhaps was punted off one too many times on a 5-lap Monza race in a public lobby in Project Cars, and just getting frustrated. But never did. I thought, I like to do these other things. Will it impact my time, and that sort of thing? And so I guess it was a bit of a sliding doors moment at the start of last year when the pandemic hit and gave me that motivation to do it, and I'm super glad I did, because now all of those other things matter a lot less than what we do here. Yeah, most definitely.
I agree.
Yeah, so you're both sort of in the league for a similar amount of time, and you've talked about I guess your history of gaming as well. I'm a massive fan of Project Cars 2 myself. I never did any league racing in there, but I was a massive fan. And Vic, you've touched on GT Sport as well. So, what other games have you guys? What other driving games, I guess, have you been into over the years?
Okay, well, when I first got the PlayStation, I brought all the games from Assetto Corsa 1, Project Cars 2,
Yeah.
just every driving game there was, and Gran Turismo was the only one that felt right at the time, like the force feedback sense.
Yeah.
But before that I was racing. I'm an old school racer, so
Yeah.
I was racing back in 2006 to 2009 back on PC with R Factor
Oh yeah.
and GDR2.
Ah yeah.
And when iRacing first came out, so iRacing wasn't as big yet back then,
Yeah.
but I was signed up when they first came up, so
Okay.
I guess I'm quite the experienced veteran, you could say.
Yeah. So you played on that. You kind of went the opposite way. You started on PC and then went to console as well.
It took a good 12-year break, I'd say.
just took a little bit of time off in the middle there.
Yep.
I remember R Factor. I played R Factor for a little bit as well.
It was so good back then.
Yeah,
It was the best.
I remember my brother got me into that as well. He was like just mad for it. He's like, you got to play this game. You got to play this game, and it was never played PC games like racing games before. Going from console, it was a big difference.
Big step up.
Yeah,
it's
huge.
a big step up.
What about GT Sport? Tell us a little bit about that, because that's obviously pretty popular. Have you did you progress up through all of them? You know, from the first one, or did you jump on?
I played a bit back on PlayStation 2 and 3, maybe on controller, but I didn't really stick with it. I was actually doing a lot of karting, like casual karting with my mates back then. We all brought karts and we'll go to the track and just push out laps and race each other.
Yeah. Okay.
But
cool.
Gran Turismo Sport, I only raced them for 2 seasons, I'd say, 2 to 3 at the most.
Yep. Favorite
Hatfield in that.
Favorite track on GT Sport?
If you ask me, favourite track on any racing sim would always be Bathurst.
Always be Bathurst. Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. Have you been to Bathurst before?
I've driven on the road when it was closed, but
Yeah.
no, I haven't gone to an actual race
dude.
there. I've gone to other places like Gold Coast and that, but I haven't gone to Bathurst.
Yeah, you got to. You have to make the pilgrimage one day.
Yeah,
It's,
I will one day for sure.
Well worth it.
The thing is, I'd only go if I'm able to drive on the track.
All right, that could be the spanner in the works there. What about you, Jamie? What's sort of been your gaming history, if you like, the driving history of your gaming?
When I was really young, I got the original PlayStation. I was straight on to the Formula One games. I've loved Formula One since I was really, really little, and so I was drawn to, as soon as I got a console, get those games. And so I kind of followed the progression of those games for a few years, and then kind of dropped out of any sort of gaming or for a number of years there until about a decade ago, and then Project Cars series kicked off, so Project Cars 1, and picked that up with my trusty controller and spent a lot of laps and a lot of time going around on single player and also in public lobbies, and then Project Cars 2 came out, and that's when I decided to invest in a wheel.
Yeah.
And so I picked up the Logitech G29.
Hey, there you go.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And but if I'm honest, it spent a lot of time in the corner gathering a bit of dust. I'd spend a bit of time here and there, and then get frustrated with the experience because public lobbies and all of that sort of thing, and then go off and do something else. And and that's really it until I joined the league last year, and I've got Gran Turismo Sport and I've done some laps in that as well. But it's really been Project Cars 2, and now we've got ACC, and pretty much the day that came out, it's been the thing I've focused on. Yeah.
Okay. It sounds you sound very similar to one another. You both kind of had I guess in terms of console stuff, Gran Turismo, Project Cars 2, and now ACC. But Jamie, obviously you had a bit more interest in F1. What about you, Vic? Are you an F1 fan?
Yeah, I am actually. I've always followed F1 as well. I watch it every weekend. Like when it's on, I try and stay up as long as I can.
It's
if
tough.
I fall asleep, I watch the highlights. But I always want to watch the qualifying. Like qualifying is pretty much the main reason why I watch it.
Well, it's tough these days, isn't it? Because the races start at 11. It's like that's my bedtime. It's just It's
That's why I liked it when I was over in Asia more, because the time difference was like I'm 3 hours behind over there, 3 to 4 hours. So
Yeah.
the timing it's good.
Yeah, no, I sort of communicate with a couple of guys on Discord. They're all over in Europe, so they're all gung ho for it. I'm barely staying awake towards the end of the races. So, okay, have you guys done any F1 racing? Like, do you
Yeah.
use any?
I did it in R Factor. We used to follow the calendar. So for 2 years,
yeah, nice.
for like 2 to 3 years, I was following the calendar with F1 races. Whatever track they went to, we went to. And so
Okay,
big F1 follower too.
cool. Team driver? Do you follow anyone or just the sport?
Just the sport in general.
Yeah.
Really.
I think a lot of people are like that. What about you, Jamie? Are you the same, or you follow any particular team or driver?
I'm a massive McLaren fan.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
You'd be a happy man then.
Kid, so,
Yeah.
It's obviously great because we've got Ricardo there at the moment, but throughout all of the years, I remember the days of Senna. I was very young, but I remember those times, and right through Coulthard and Hakkinen, and
Especially when they obviously they had the old they have Peugeots in there for a little while. There were sort of some dark days when they had the old Marlboro livery, but then once they went to that, I think was it after '96, they got the podium in Jerez, and then I think they came and won it 98, 99 in that West liveried McLaren. So just absolute weapons after that for a while.
Yeah,
so,
beautiful cars.
Yeah, awesome fun
I've been driving those in R Factor.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can get your hands on them in any of the PC stuff, they're really, really well replicated. So
Yeah.
okay, cool. All right. Well, it sounds you both had that sort of similar driving game journey as well. It's sort of pretty reminiscent of mine as well. All right, let's go from here. So, talking about just motivation. Where does it come from for you guys? What I guess what attracted you to motorsport?
For me, I just felt comfortable on the track ever since I first played Gran Turismo or went karting.
Yeah.
I just felt like it just shuts the world out, and I'm in that zone of driving the right lines and right brake points and just trying to push the car, I guess. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, but did you get into it from a young age? Did your parents get you into it?
No, I'd say I'm a late starter.
Yeah.
Say maybe 16, 17, I first tried Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
And around 17 went karting and just got hooked ever since.
Okay, so it was just sort of through your own kind of personal experiences.
Like I would say I really watch a lot of motorsport, because when I watch it, I'd rather be driving.
Yeah.
Even now, when I watch races, I'd rather be driving.
Okay.
Just fires me up to get on a sim or call my mate up to go track days or go karting.
So you just had a natural affinity for it. It was just something that you were just naturally drawn to.
Yeah, I was just naturally drawn to it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay. Maybe that explains the high level of talent that you have as well. Towards it. What about
Possibly.
you? Yeah. What about you, Jamie? How were you sort of drawn to motorsport?
I was fascinated by it in a lot of ways as a kid. I mean, as a kid, you love these fast things that are going around a circuit, and you want to know more about it, and you want to be one of those people who gets to drive it. But I also became engrossed in everything else. A little bit the technical side, but I wasn't, very technical, I suppose. But the politics of it as well, strangely enough.
Yeah.
And if we've been talking about Formula One, but as a kid, that was so very European for me, and it still largely is.
Yeah.
But with European background, I guess I've been drawn to those things, and motor racing was just this thing. I was listening to these people talk about it, and they talked about it in a way that I kind of connected with.
Yeah.
And so that stuck with me at a really young age. And so when you go through things like you get that first console and you get your first racing game, and so you want to do that, you want to be as fast as you can at it, you want to be really good at it, and then you start thinking of other things like, okay, well, how do I get myself into a go-kart? And the possibilities start to spread from there, and obviously you're limited not by your ambition but by what is possible in your life, or financial wise,
Yeah.
and things like that. So you make do with what you have, and that's been my motivation is, well, this is my passion. Okay, I'm 36 years old and I can't be sat in a Formula One car going around in the world right now, or a V8 supercar or anything, but what is the closest place that I can be to generate these sensations and feelings?
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing right now, and I'm really glad that I can do it in this way.
Yeah, I think we're definitely living in that time right now where, you know, the pandemic has opened up sim racing a hell of a lot over the past 12 months to 2 years, but in terms of what's available now, considering what was available in the past, is just night and day, and the advances in technology. And obviously you'll never replicate what happens in a car, but you know, from what we can do sitting at home, it's pretty decent. So it's funny that you say that, the politics of F1 like, they refer to the Piranha Club and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, it's obviously not about me, this interview, but I kind of enjoy that part of it as well, the sort of the cut and thrust of it, and you know, the sort of the, you know, the politicking and the grandstanding and the sort of the you know, the tactics that are used. What do you find attractive about that?
I think it's just interesting the way these industries operate. You know, so I think about, you know, the industries that I operate in my own work life, and, you know, my friends and family, and this is just like, it could exist in a TV show or a movie almost, and in fact it does in some aspects, but it's real life as well, just those deals that go on, and I guess the consequences that the knock-on effects of a deal or a particular decision, and the fallouts from it. I just loved it all, and the Piranha Club, I've read that book and a number of similar books as well, and it's just fascinating. I guess in the same way people are fascinated by certain dramas in movies or TVs or things like that. It's just my vibe.
That's what it is. It's created for the drama, for everyone to watch.
It is.
It draws everyone to watch it.
That's what people love, isn't it? The drama,
the
behind the scenes stuff. You know, it's the racing is just a small blip. It's everything else that goes on pre and post the races is what gets a lot of people hooked in. Okay, cool. That's really interesting. So neither of you have had real sort of strong influences from outside, like, you know, from parents or friends or family. It's been more just you've both been sort of just naturally drawn to it, and you weren't necessarily guided or pushed into it. It's just something that you were naturally gravitated towards.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
I didn't have a good childhood coming up, so I guess so I'm lucky to have met sim racing.
What do you mean by that?
Stuck to it.
What do you mean, the childhood comment there? What do you mean by that?
I just didn't have I had more of a rough childhood, broken family, etc. You know, I won't get too deep into it, but
no, that's fair enough.
Just didn't have the luxuries as a lot of people had.
No, that's understandable. I can certainly relate. Came from a single parent household myself, so can sort of identify a bit with the struggle there. That's fair enough. All right, cool. All right, so that's your motivation. Let's have a chat about, I guess, in terms of the team perspective. So, you're obviously in ICR. Jamie, you're in Bruce Hale Racing. Tell us a little bit about what it's been like in your teams this season. A bit of insight in terms of your teammates as well, and you know, from your perspective, in your words, what's it been like this season in your respective teams?
It's been good. I actually enjoy the team aspect of it all, as long as it's good fun, competitiveness, you could say. Yeah. Like between all teams in general. But in my team, it's been good. I mean, there's been a lot of members that have stopped racing, so we've had really low numbers. Yeah. But all in all, those that communicate are good. We work together. I try and help them as much as I can.
Okay. You've that was something that on last week's broadcast we kind of talked about, didn't we?
Yeah.
When you popped in there, that numbers were a bit of an issue. So
it started to fall off as the season went on.
Tell you what, you should get that captain of yours, get him to pull his finger out and maybe get some more numbers for your team. What do you reckon?
He was the first one to drop off. I've just been good.
He jumped off the boat nice and quick. And what about you, River? How's Bruce Hale Racing treated you this season?
It's been pretty amazing to be part of Gaz's team, Bruce Hale Racing, since the start, since the team's championship part of it formed in season 2. Bruce Hale Racing as a team, the name has a history obviously associated with it, and I guess one thing that Gaz did quite early is a lot of people weren't around when Bruce Hale was here, and I guess a lot of people were new to the ROOZ community, so Gaz made a very good point about telling the story of Bruce Hale.
Do you know what that story is?
Yeah, so he was obviously a member of the ROOZ community and became quite active and apparently quite good as well. And then unfortunately he passed away quite suddenly. And this news came back to the ROOZ community, and obviously it affected quite a lot of people quite deeply, and so much so that he now has this team named after him, which is representative across all of the team's championships in ROOZ. There is also a annual race of champions. I believe that's a GT Sport.
I actually won one of those.
Yeah.
The Bathurst.
So that particular event's named in his honour as well.
Yeah.
And I guess and I was not around at this time, obviously in ROOZ, but he was such a great bloke. Really epitomised what a great mate is, and respect and sportsmanship, laughs, all of those things that bring us together, and he kind of summed that all up. So I guess Gaz, really telling that story, and then allowing all of us to build up our own version of that within the team.
Wow.
And I think the other thing, so that's kind of like the emotional and the personal bedrocks to it. I think another good aspect to the team's element is, we all jumped on this thing called Discord, which has helped hugely in the flow of communication and discussion. So I think that really helps to bond, that you have these discussions keeping on rolling throughout the day. Every day in our team chat, there's, a conversation about something or other, whether it's a setup or, a race strategy or something not entirely at all related to sim racing. So that keeps everyone together and communicating, and so it's just a great spirit. And I know that, all the teams are building up their versions of that, and it's going to spread right through the community. That's going to be great to see.
Yeah, that's a really amazing story. I'd never heard that before, so I didn't know the history of the Bruce Hale Racing name. So that's a really, like, such a that he must have been such a memorable person to be honoured like that. That's really amazing. I think that's it's great that the league has that kind of that's part of its fabric of its history as well. So that's really amazing. It sounds like obviously you've got a pretty tight knit team there as well. And Discord. I hadn't heard about Discord until about 12 months ago myself. So it's been new for me, but it has been a phenomenal communication tool. And obviously, different leagues use it differently, but I think, ROOZ uses it quite well, and it's great for having those individual team chats as well. Great. Anyone that you wanted to give a shout out to? Gaz is a name that comes up a lot. Can you give us a few words about Gaz and sort of, your relationship with him?
Well, Gaz, he's a ROOZ veteran and has seen many seasons throughout, GT Sport, Project Cars, and now ACC. So I think he typifies what the league is about. He's obviously someone that you look up to in terms of how you want to be a part of a community. He's promotes great respect on track for his drivers in his team, and sportsmanship, but also looking out for one another as well, and helping each other. he's just a fantastic person. Gaz is, as are many of the ROOZ veterans who have built it up to what it is today.
Yeah.
So I'm super happy that Gaz chose me way back in season 2 to be part of the team, and glad to have helped bring a couple of championships for him.
Well, here, because that's I only ever hear positive things about Gaz through other people, so I think you've just solidified all of that. So thanks for sharing. That was really insightful. What about you, Vic? Do you have anyone you wanted to give a shout out to? ICR, maybe you want to do some...
Yeah, shout out ICR and Nige. Yeah. Hope I didn't offend you with that comment.
No.
Downey, all my teammates, they've all welcomed me with open arms, so
yeah,
I'll do the same. It's been good. Yeah, I actually enjoy this team aspect of the league, and I hope the whole ROOZ follows that direction.
Yeah.
Not just between the teams, but between all, because we're all here to enjoy ourselves, really, not be so serious and have all that tension. It should be like an open community where we all can have a chat and not go off at each other if something happens on the track.
Yeah. Can obviously at the end of the day, it is it's essentially.
Yeah, there is a competitive side, but
yeah,
as long as it is a game after all. So first and foremost, we should be enjoying ourselves, have a laugh.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
I agree. At the end of the day, it is a game, and there's bigger things than sim racing, but it's easy to get carried away with it in the moment. It's we've all been guilty of it, myself included, of getting carried away. But cooler heads usually prevail, and I think that's definitely the case in ROOZ as well. All right, so just moving on. This is what I'm really quite interested in. I think a lot of our listeners and viewers will be interested in this as well. But in terms of the psychological side of things, so you've both had similar sort of backgrounds in terms of the games that you played. You both were naturally, sort of attracted to motorsport as well. Give us an insight into sort of the mental side of it and how you approach it. So Vic, you touched on earlier around, you just love getting out there and, you watch cars racing. You're like, no, I want to go do it myself. And then you talked about sort of just getting in that zone too. So can you just walk us through it of sort of, I guess the mental side of, how you approach that, and kind of what's going through your mind when you're in a car? Like what's that zone that you talk about? What does it feel like? And what do you do to get into it?
Okay, it's a bit hard to explain, but I'll try my best.
Yeah, try it. Yeah.
The physical and mental side, I believe it's more mental in just like all sports. I don't know if he's played. I've played a lot of tennis and Oztag, but there's individual sports, particularly, that it's more of a mental battle with yourself rather than the physical side.
Yeah, agreed.
Because it's more about not letting your emotions get in the way and just staying focused on what you need to do rather than what's happening around you.
Yeah.
I'd say. So I'll prepare, for the races, I'll prepare just like I prepare for training. So I'll do my 20-minute dynamic warm-ups, and it's just like I'm going to the gym and doing my training session.
Yeah.
So I treat it in the same way because that kind of zones me out and blocks out the world just to start the race. But then again, I do get nervous in qualifying, hence some of my qualifying times aren't as good as my practice sessions. But yeah, so it's all just a mental battle, whether you can calm yourself enough and...
Yeah. So given the situation, so what's going through your mind? So I agree totally with the individual sports side of things, where that mental toughness, especially tennis players, they're out there by themselves. They're not allowed to have much communication with coaches. It's you're in the middle of everything. You need to be the calm in the storm. So you touched on if the qualifying time isn't going well for you or something's not quite working out for you. What do you do? What's your thought process in that kind of situation?
I'm usually just trying to calm myself. I can kind of feel that tension when I'm trying to push too hard or the nerves getting the better of me. So for me, I just start breathing and calm my mind. I don't know. I just start thinking, just calm yourself and breathe slow breathing.
Yeah.
To kind of relax me a bit, and then my focus just comes back. Well, I guess that's my thought process. Just calm the mind.
Yeah. So you sort of in through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth kind of breathing. You're talking
slow
about?
breathing. Slow breathing in, slow breathing out.
Yeah.
And just calm. And then focus on my brake lines and what's happening on track.
And do you do any kind of meditation or anything like that? You know, not for racing, obviously, but sort of in general, or?
I don't really know what meditation is, but I guess I'm good at calming the mind over the years.
Okay.
Like I like to sit in the sauna for half an hour and just chill out. I guess would you call that meditating? I don't know.
Well, I think meditation can be anything. You know, a single breath is meditation. Driving can be meditation. Riding can be meditation. You know.
Yeah, I'd say I do a lot of it then because I do a lot of riding and my sports. That kind of just zones me out and blocks out the noise of the world. Yeah.
That's sort of getting into focusing on a one singular thing, not necessarily nothing. But just...
to answer your question, I guess I would say yes. Driving definitely does that for me.
I was going to say, driving sounds like it's almost a meditation for you. You know, that sort of getting into that
for sure.
That rhythm, that mindset. So, okay, cool. And so that breathing side of it that's what sort of helps you keep nice and calm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does.
And what about you, Jamie? What's your approach to the mental, psychological side of it?
I think similar to Vic, you know, in the lead up to the actual race or the event starting, you know, it's about kind of decluttering the mind as much as possible. So I definitely have that period just before jumping in where, you know, I'm doing a few stretches just to loosen the muscles, which helps, you know, freshen the mind a bit as well, because you're starting to use that time to think about how you're going to approach the sessions and the race, and start thinking about all the various strategies and scenarios that you've been thinking about for the last 2 weeks, starting to piece them together. And typically on the day from about kind of like mid to late afternoon, I find it very difficult to not be thinking about it. So rather than stressing like, oh, I shouldn't be thinking about this now, or it's too early, or I need to be doing this, is just kind of accepting it rather than fighting it, because it's expelling energy. And that way, accepting it, then, you know, I can go through a bit of a routine in the coming hours before the race to, you know, a cycle that I've found has been reasonably successful in getting me focused when I switch everything on.
Do you mind sharing it with us?
I just kicking off with a stretching exercise first, because I find doing that is really relaxing, and then that helps clear everything else out of the mind. Then jumping into the actual session itself, I like to use the whole 1 hour practice session.
Okay.
Not to do endless laps, but you know, have a bit of a program of how I tackle it. Start giving me real time information to feed into my theorized strategy that's bubbling around in my brain. And then that just kind of gets me mentally ready. And then I think it's like Vic said, it's really difficult to describe how you keep concentration and mental stimulation throughout the whole thing. But I guess one way I kind of trick my mind is to not see it in the sense of time or laps, but as one long thread.
Okay.
So if I see like there's 90 minutes or 60 minutes to go, or if I know that we've got to do 51 laps or 34 laps or something like that, it seems like a lot. And you do one and you're counting down by one, and then two, and then three. It seems a lot. But if I think about it as a thread, it feels a lot more manageable, and I'm just moving along the thread. And then that way, instead of the laps and the time, I'm thinking about, okay, I need to hit this braking marker, and this is the kind of entry line I need to take, and you know, I need to be careful of the car kicking back out of this curb. So it just helps. Just a little mental trick that I use, and found it helps.
That's really interesting. So you think about it as a thread. That's okay, cool. That's and you know, we all think differently, right? So you know, some people might chunk it down into 10-minute blocks. Some people might do it into laps, but you see it as a thread. So can you elaborate a little bit on that? Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like, what do you like? Is this a thread like that you kind of visualize, or what is this thread in your mind? What does it look like?
Yeah, it's probably visualized like kind of has these. It is broken up into sections, obviously, because you're thinking about your strategy, and we obviously have the mandatory pit stops. So, it's kind of like, it's difficult to describe. Like, I can visualize it in my brain, but like to actually talk about it is really weird. Never thought I'd actually be talking about it, to be honest, but here I am. But, it's kind of like if you're following a rope, like maybe climbing up something or across something, and you just kind of moving forward, and there is an end to it. It's obviously not an endless rope because we've got to finish the race at some point, hopefully.
Hopefully,
but it's maybe it's just a mental trick, and then that way I can kind of rationalize the race as a whole, rather than in really thin slices like a lap or a minute.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's very, very insightful. I can identify with you know what it looks like in your head, but it's hard to explain. But I think you did a pretty good job of that. So, wow, awesome, thank you. That's really cool insight. What about you, Vic? Do you have anything like that at all, or you're just more?
For me, it's similar, but in a different way. Like for me, I've had to hold back from doing push laps because that's where my errors come. If I can just, that's where for me I have to calm the mind to just stop trying to do push laps in a race, because that's where the errors come.
Yeah, right.
So every time I made one error in Imola. That's where I passed River and then he passed me back, but you just missed it. But it was because of that.
Thanks.
I saw the green. I saw the green on the Delta, and then that kind of fires me up. Okay, I'm gonna push this lap just to try and build a gap, and then as soon as I did it, I just made the error, and I was like, okay. Then I just calmed the mind again and just drove consistently.
So you guys kind of have two different philosophies almost. It's like, Vic, you have to hold yourself back from not doing push laps, whereas Jamie, you kind of see it as one long thread. So you want to have a nice. Would I be right in saying that, like a nice consistent pace? You're not having to push too hard or drop off, but have a nice one pace.
Yeah, one thing I found pretty early on when joining the ROOZ Project Cars, and then when when we first kicked off, was I had a consistency problem in the race. Like I could bang out a really quick qualifying lap or the odd quick race lap, but just continually making mistakes. Similar to Vic, be looking at the Delta or be, trying to push myself a bit too hard in part of the race where I shouldn't have been doing that, and I needed to find a different way to create a level of consistency that would get me through a 60 or a 90-minute race without making mistakes, because that's what you need to do if you want to battle Vic to the end of one of those races. So I just went about trying to mentally prepare a different way to doing it, and I think so. If I think of that thread, then a thread might become elongated when you make a mistake. So if you run wide and you lose a few seconds, or if you have a spin, that's obviously a big indent in the thread, or the thread kind of bulges. Maybe that's a better word. Bulges out. So rather than going straight on or across, you're now extending. The length of area that you need to cross is maybe a better way to describe it. I really wanted to work on race consistency, and like Vic said, we probably struggled to match our best one lap pace in qualifying over this season, but I think both of us really focused on race pace over the last couple of seasons.
Well, you guys were together the majority of the time, right? You were finishing within one or two spots of each other, usually behind each other.
Even when we practice, we're pretty much practicing together. It's one of those things that we just got used to doing since I was with BHR.
You guys not in any parties either, I take it, when you're driving? You're just by yourselves?
Yeah, just by myself. I can't stay in a party when there's too much chatter.
Yeah, I don't know how other people do it myself. I couldn't do it either. What about superstitions? Do we have any superstitions, like, have to eat a certain meal or wear a certain piece of clothing, or get into your rig a certain way?
No, I'm not really superstitious, but when my prep for race days, I'll make sure I eat before 3 to 4 p.m. Just so my energy is just used for my brain instead of digesting. Okay. All
right, so you're going in a bit light. All right.
Yeah. I'm used to fasting. Like, I enjoy fasting and all that. And like I look after my health like in a big way. So
Yeah.
I find that my brain's more optimal when I'm say 3 or 4 hours after I've eaten, when all the food's digested.
Yeah, you're sort of at maximum kind of alertness.
Yeah, all the energy just goes to the brain.
Yeah. Beautiful. What about you, River? You said that sort of throughout the day. That's really interesting what you said there, where if thought will come into your mind, instead of fighting it, spending energy on it, you'll accept it and move it on. So that's something that sort of I think a lot of sort of mental practitioners try to always explain, is that acceptance, and like it's almost like meditation, is that a thought will come into your mind, and instead of trying to figure out why it's here and how do I get rid of it, it's accepting that it's there, and then it will move on automatically. So is there any kind of any parts of your routine that you must do that you might be a little bit superstitious about, like Vic's eating 3 or 4 hours before, anything like that for you?
I eat quite early as well.
Yeah.
For the same reason. Plus, I've found when you get a little bit of nerves, having a full stomach isn't isn't great.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, it's just keeping reasonably consistent, but also being flexible. So something's working for a time and then stops working for whatever reason. It's being okay to change that up.
Okay. Any particular foods? Fish for you, Vic?
No, I eat. Well, I'm on a really low carb diet, so I'm more on the keto end.
Yep.
I eat whatever.
Okay. What about you, Jamie?
Mainly focus on like fresh fruits and vegetables, and like whole foods and those sorts of things.
Okay.
So
I'm the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sound kind of similar to each other.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah. Well, you both were talking about stretching as well. So you I think, Vic, did you say dynamic warm-ups?
Yeah, I do dynamic stretching warm-ups. So I don't like hold static stretches. I'm more of I move around a lot, get the lactic acid building up and heart rate going.
So explain to us what dynamic stretches are.
Dynamic stretches are more full body movements, and it's almost like functional training, but more lighter, like moving the joints and wrists and arms and I don't know how to explain. It's
well, what
just more functional type movements.
What would you do, for example? What's a basic dynamic stretch that you could explain for us to do? If you're trying to teach us how to do a dynamic stretch, what would it be? What exercise?
It's more dynamic movements. I wouldn't say dynamic.
Dynamic movement.
They just call it dynamic stretching. But
how would you explain? How would you explain it to me if you were to try to say, Nick, I want you to do a dynamic movement right now?
It's involved like star jumps and air squats.
Right. Yes. Okay, so it's that kind of dynamic. Yeah. Right.
So just say planks, like putting your arms up straight.
Yeah.
Like one arm each and all that. That type of.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, that's more like dynamic warming up, just all body weight stuff.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily. It's almost like really light exercise, if you like.
Yeah, so, like exercise.
Yeah.
Functional type movements.
Yeah. It's just kind of warming you up. It's warm up stuff. Yeah. Okay. It's cool. So it's not necessarily, hey, bend over and touch your toes kind of stuff for 10 seconds.
Not static kind of movement.
Right.
I mean, not static stretches, just dynamic movements.
Yeah. And what sort of dynamic movements do you do, or do you focus on?
I do the same dynamic movements. It's all full body. I do the same thing for my training sessions, and it's mostly just full body, getting the heart rate going, get lactic acid in the legs. Yeah, okay. I think lactic acid helps the brain a little.
How so?
So it just gets you focused.
Okay.
We zone your mind out early.
Well, everyone always talks about lactic acid.
For what's coming.
Well, people talk about lactic acid not being good in terms of a sporting capacity, but you say that it's good for a mental capacity.
No, it is. When you play sports, basically, that's what gets you zoned out. The lactic acid goes to your brain. It's not really acid. It's just I won't get into too much details, but it's just like energy that's needs to be recycled.
Yeah, okay.
And it just feels like it's burning, so they call it lactic acid, but it's really fed to your brain and your body to get you zoned in.
All right, so that's the physical side for you. What about you, Jamie? You said that you do stretching as well. Do you do dynamic movements or sort of dynamic stretching, or what is it? What do you do?
Nah, not quite to that level. Mine's just pretty basic stretching of, arms, legs, back, neck, accumulated, numerous muscle and bone and ligament and tendon injuries over the years. So, they all kind of add up and compound on each other, and spending time in the rig just kind of freezes them up.
Yeah.
I remember we did a 2-hour enduro race at the start of one of the previous season, and I was in a GT4 car, which requires a lot of pedal, a lot of modulation on the pedal, on accelerating. I was doing that for 2 hours, and in the last 15 minutes I could barely step on the accelerator. I was leading, and the guy in second was closing me down, and I'm just struggling, could barely hit the accelerator. So I thought, I can't have this. So I've got to, particularly my legs and my hips and my lower back, I need to get them sorted out and nice and limber beforehand to ensure that they can last the race.
Well, I do often talk about that, the physical side to sim racing, obviously not as strenuous as actually being in the car. But if you think about, majority of people work all day. A lot of people work, labour-intensive jobs as well. So if you're, a tradie of some sort, or, you're doing physical manual labour, and then to come home and then, you might do an hour practice and then do a 90-minute race, that's nearly 3 hours. That's a fair bit of effort on top of what you've done all day. It's being able to have that, stretching before you get started and, have a little bit of sort of... sort of the nutritional side of it as well. It is important. It's because obviously, depending on the car that you're driving, the track, and plus the mental application, it can be quite energy sapping as well to do sim racing.
Yeah, for sure. I believe being fit and healthy helps immensely in just these longer races.
Yeah.
And just staying mentally focused.
Yeah, I agree.
For long periods.
I agree. All right, cool. Well, we're coming towards the end here, so we've got a couple more questions before I'll let you both go. This season, focusing mainly on the two of you, specifically on the two of you, what's your most vivid memory of you battling each other? What's the what springs to mind straight away of this past season? What was the most vivid memory of fighting each other this season?
Oh, for me, it would definitely be the last round. Like every round, it's always us battling for pole. And then, that last round is definitely memorable. Like I made it harder on myself than you should have, but it was great. Awesome battle between us. Just the beginning of the race, I was just thinking I need to stay close or get ahead of him, because if I'm going to make this no tire change work, I need to be close enough.
It was a fascinating battle. It really was. And then obviously it came down to the end there, but obviously, Jamie, you had the upper hand in the beginning, and then, Vic, you went for that. I think was it a dive at turn? Was it Tamburello or Villeneuve? As you pointed out, we didn't quite pick it up, but I didn't pick it up there. And then obviously at the end there, Jamie, are you the same, or are you have a different thought?
Yeah, it was. That was probably the most vivid, not just because it was the most recent, but obviously the way our strategies, how that played out, and we were stronger at different parts of the race, was obviously quite intense for us, and fascinating for the people watching on. But as Vic said, there were heaps of other times, and not just in the races, like you were saying in qualifying, we'd trying to take pole, and then just to see him pop up, like a few thousandths of a second up, or I got a few thousandths of a second up, and it's just it's pretty.
I think you definitely won the pole battles.
Maybe, but
I think I had a slide on that before. I'll see if I can go back to it. Hang on.
Some of those races, my nerves are just off the roof.
It was
sometimes.
3-3. It was 3-3 for the poles.
Okay,
Yeah, so it was
cool.
it was a dead heat for the poles this season. What's your post race like for both of you? What do you do? Because obviously we finished at about 9:30. Wrap it up sort of 9:30, 10. What's it like for you guys? Is it pretty easy? Tidy up and off to bed, or do you do a little debrief, or obviously you chat with the team? What's the routine?
No, we have our own debrief on the chat usually.
Yeah.
Just
What
have
you
a
and
little
you
quick
and
debrief and talk about our errors and
you and Jamie,
what could
Vic?
have been.
Are you talking?
Most of us, me, Jamie, Slambo,
Yeah.
whoever jumps on really, just
Yeah.
a bunch of us just get on the normal server chat and have a little debrief
Yeah.
and a bit of a laugh.
Anything that you want to share with us? Anything that usually comes up, or any events that normally happen?
No, we normally just talk about some of our errors that we made during the race and have a bit of a rant or a spew on what could have been.
Yeah.
But besides that, it's all good banter.
Or someone didn't move over for blue flags, or they cost you a position or anything.
No, we don't have much of those banters
Okay.
or rants.
What about you, Jamie? You're the same or a bit different?
Yeah, obviously the conversation kicks off on Discord because everyone's been watching, and so they're keen to understand the bits and pieces that you weren't able to pick up in the broadcast, because obviously you can't pick up everything, and you immediately want to give off your learnings as well, even though the guys have got another week before they race at the same track. You're like, I learned this, and I'm thinking about all these things. It's also fresh, and I find it very, very difficult to I guess wind down, so to speak. So I actually will watch the race back almost immediately.
Yeah, nice.
As it gives me an opportunity to
same.
I just crash on the couch and just watch it until I fall asleep.
I have my late dinner and watch the race.
Nice. All right, brilliant. Cool. All right, so it sounds like it's a similar routine. You guys are very, very similar to one another in a lot of it, in a lot of the sense. All right, last one. Actually, this is an unscripted question. What are your rigs? What are you guys using at the moment?
I'm using Fanatec CSO Elite.
Yeah.
On next level FGT rig.
Oh, yep.
On a 43-inch 4K screen.
Yeah, nice.
It just comes on the rig. It's all mounted on the TV. So.
Is it the CSL Elite pedals as well that you're using?
Yep, CSL Elite.
Yep.
Load cell pedals.
Yep.
I got the Formula V2 wheel.
Ah, nice.
What about? I got all the buttons.
Yeah.
More.
You got all the little
all the extra little buttons.
Yeah,
I need.
all the bells and whistles on that one. Yeah. What about you, Jamie? It's obviously not the old Logitech G29 anymore.
No, that's safely in a box packed away in a cupboard. Hopefully it'll never see the light of day. But in case my Fanatec gear breaks down, it is there in case. So I've got a Fanatec, lucky enough to have the DD one. With the F1, I guess similar to Vic's, the Formula wheel.
With the extra 3 pedal shifts.
Yeah. Which is great. There's almost too many buttons to know what to do with.
You can never have too many buttons, mate, especially on a Assetto Corsa either.
He can actually have blinkers.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, this is the last question, so we're about to wrap it up. But I'll get each of you to answer individually again, obviously. But so just looking ahead, is there anything that you feel that could be added to help improve the experience in the league for all concerned? So speaking for everyone, can you see anything that could possibly be added that's going to improve the experience for everyone?
Can't think of any at the moment, but I'm sure a lot of us have ideas for the league. But in the end, I'm sure JJ has good plans and is moving us in the right direction. Yeah.
So nothing at all. Everything's pretty peachy keen for you.
Well, going on to next season, I think it is because before he kind of held me back from sharing setups and that. He just wanted me to do it within my team, but now I think for ROOZ as a whole, it would be better that just everyone be open. I'm open. I'm an open book with the
Yeah.
terms of the setups and that. And
Yeah.
just like to have a competitive but friendly league.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, definitely. You are extremely generous with your time and your resources. So, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I think because from my old sim racing league back in the days, we all like that. We all just share setups and everyone's just having a good laugh rather than have that really competitive, selfish side to it.
Yep.
It just doesn't create a good atmosphere to come and race because one little mistake or one little tap, someone will just start ranting and swearing, and it's just it's just not fun.
More of
Not a fun environment.
a sharing community type of vibe.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
All right. Well, same again for you, Jamie. Sorry, hang on a second.
Some things that might be great to try. We're perhaps limited by the platform itself, rather than what we can possibly do as a league. So I think just as we get new opportunities with what comes out with ACC, we just try things, see what works, what doesn't. I think though the essence of the league is being built upon all of the other ROOZ leagues. So so that's been honed and crafted over many years, and there's a basis that works there. But selfishly, if I'm going to be doing commentating on races next season, knowing who's who in the points in terms of AM or servers and ratings, in the last round I was trying to speak like I had some authority about it, but I really had no idea who was leading what, and so
well, I'll give
Bounty
you.
And
I think Bounty's on that.
Yeah,
they do a great job, but it can be a bit difficult to.
I agree. It is extremely hard to keep up with sometimes. It's Bounty does do a fantastic job, but it can be a little bit difficult to decipher. I found in those moments, Jamie, a little advice for commentating: just fake it till you make it, mate. People don't know what they don't know. So if you say with enough authority, they'll believe you. So there's a little bit of advice for you. But beautiful. Look, I think that would be fantastic. A fantastic advancement, and we'll see what Bounty does for next season. And obviously, Andrali does the graphics every week. He does a fantastic job with that too. So. But yeah, I've made similar comments as well. All right, well, guys, that's it. Do you believe that's been an hour? That sort of just flew by. Yeah, that flew by for me. I don't know about you guys, but I just wanted to say a massive thank you so much for giving up some of your time as well, and just sharing with us tonight some insights into I guess what makes you guys tick as well. And obviously, a lot of people look up to you guys, and you're two of the quickest drivers out there in the pro division. And I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, thank you.
Yep, sure did. Thanks, Nick.
No, my absolute pleasure. It was great to sort of get to sit down and talk with you for an hour. I think it was I think we got a lot out of it. Anything that you wanted to mention before we finish this one?
Just thanks JJ for running this awesome league. Thanks everyone else. Thank you for having us, Nick.
No, my pleasure. Jamie, did you have anything?
Yeah, I'll echo that. Thanks to JJ, thanks to yourself, Nige, you mentioned Andrelli and Bounty, and there's Kamengu and people doing all sorts of things.
Yeah, there's so many people behind the scenes, it's hard to remember them all.
Yeah.
So it's great that they can do that, and Vic and I are obviously very happy to share, and so if people feel like they want to understand something a bit more or want a bit of help, they shouldn't feel shy to get in touch and reach out to one of us and see what we can do to help. Yeah,
I wholeheartedly agree. So, all right, well, that's a great way to wrap it up. So once again, thank you. Hope everyone who's watching and listening that you enjoyed it as well. We'll see if we can do more of these type of things in the future. But until then, take care of yourself. Thank you, Vic. Thank you, Jamie. My name is Nick. This has been the first ever ROOZ podcast. So Number one of how many, we don't know, but hopefully we get to do it again. Take it easy. We'll see you next time.
So, cheers, Nick.
Bye.